Ivere, where are you, my dear? Please come, give her a mic. This one was an investment banker working in Lagos, in one of the banks here. It was on operating table. She went to do her abortion and she died there. Please come on the stage. The time is really gone, but just I'm going to see how to, like I did with this, to get to the gist. So we need to know if fornication still sends people to hell, if abortion still sends people. None of these people are Dominion City people. I returned back from that burial, my father's burial, after hearing all this story. The Lord said, I will give you other evidence. I want you to note all the things that happen, so that throughout your lifetime on earth, you will not forget this. When other preachers are dropping teaching and warning people about my coming, or warning people about damnation, that you will not join. He said the temptation will come so much to your generation just to preach soft gospel and make it. He said, I will give you another evidence. And he said, when you go to church that day, and the person will not be a member of your church. So I was ready to prove God wrong. I came to church and they finished worship. I went on the pulpit. I said, there is a person that is here. You are not a Dominion City member, but you are here today. You have died and had an experience. Who are you? Where are you? The girl lifted her hand. Anyway, to make the story short, I said, come out. I want to hear what it is. That's how I found her. I also didn't tell her to now join here. She just, because when Rehabonke raised that man for I carried the man. We were going from campus to campus until they took him out of the country. Everywhere I was doing crusade, he was going with me. I made sure that she was also sharing her testimonies to help other people. Okay, what happened to you?
Thank you so much, Daddy. That particular day, I walked into church and Pastor was talking. And before that day, I was afraid to share the testimony because I kept feeling like I wasn't married and it wasn't something I was so proud of. But the Lord was telling me that it was time to share the testimony.
She was worried that if she started telling people she did abortion, did all that, and she came from a Christian home, her father would be so disappointed and that it might affect her in finding a husband. Meanwhile, the girl is now married anyway, by the way. Yes, she started sharing it and God still gave her a husband. And then she was frightened about her dad. And meanwhile, as at the time you went to her, were you a believer or not?
I was a believer.
She was born again in secondary school. Talk about that secondary school part so that they will know whether Christian can go to hell. So
in secondary school, my SS1 particularly, there was a lady that walked up to me. I was a moralist because I gave my life first in primary school. When I was 7 years old, there was a little girl, Abichi. She reached out to me and preached Jesus to me. And I saw the wisdom that came out of her. And because of that, I surrendered myself to Christ. But because I was from a Catholic family, there was nobody to really help me grow. So along the line, I found myself, dwindling. But I was just a moralist. So back in secondary school, I was just a moralist. And I came back home from school. I came back to school that period. And I made up my mind I was going to join the bad girls because a guy wrote me a letter. And I wanted to join the bad girls in school. Like, okay, I also have a boyfriend. And then the guy I reached out to talk to, Becky, she just came to me and when I told her that I want to join her, she was like, why would you want to turn from being good to bad when people are turning from being bad to good? And I didn't expect that from her, so I was very upset. She just kept going and going and going, and before you know, I broke out, I cried, and I gave my life to Christ.
Because we don't have the time, go to your salvation. I want to know if you are genuinely saved or not. It will help us to place you.
So I gave my life to Christ. I was one of the ESCOs in school.
When did this one happen?
Secondary school, SS1.
Okay.
Well, I was one of the ESCOs in the fellowship. We did great exploits back in school. And when I graduated, I got to the university. I was still born again. But it was along the line, I started backsliding. I got into a relationship and we dated all through the period that I was in school. And it started first of all as a godly relationship. 1 year later, we found ourselves having physical sexual activities. But there was a scripture that just kept, prompting my spirit that it's very difficult for someone that's tasted the goodness of God and dwindled to come back. So every time I'm doing that, I'm praying and say, God, please don't let my heart become so hardened. So I fast forward to I finished university. I'm back in Lagos now working. I was now working on my relationship with God because now there was a distance between us. I started dedicating myself. I was now working back on my relationship with God. So I had renewed my fellowship with God when this particular episode happened. And when I was working in that particular office and my boss at work, he was not directly in our office, but he was the director in the company. He asked me to come, let's hang out. And I looked at it, what really bad could come out? I was not dating anybody. I'd been keeping myself. I was celibate for over a year plus, so I didn't really think anything bad could happen. And then he gave me an address. When I got to the address, I realized it was a his personal guest house. And I wasn't afraid because it's somebody I work with. I'd seen him, reach out to people that are oppressed in the office. He liked to, defend people that are being oppressed. And I was always finding myself getting into trouble until one day before he even invited me out, he tried to find out what could be the problem. And I explained to him. So when they are making management decisions without actually finding out from the people that were low down, you always try to find out from us what is the problem so that you could be the person that would, speak up for us. So I felt very comfortable with him. So when he invited me to that place, I got there. I wasn't afraid. There was no thought of that. And then along the line, he reached out to me and tried to kiss me. Initially, I was torn in between being respectful and being rude. And after a while, when I was very firm on this thing, he just continued. And, he forced me and he raped me. And, I struggled. I screamed. I did everything, I could do to resist it. But I just couldn't help it. And after the rape, I left there. It happened on the 22nd of December that year. So I left that place. I was very distraught. I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't tell anybody this whole thing. I went back home. It was just that same boss at the office, a lady that was troubling me that I had to tell because she should see me crying. I was always in tears. And I opened up. I told her, but I didn't tell her it was our boss. I just told her what happened. After that episode, it was a few days after 31st of December, I went to church. And because all that while, I just kept blaming myself. Like, I knew that I went there, like I took my legs and went there. So it's my fault. I couldn't tell anybody, so it was eating me up. And when I got to church that day, I just cried to God and I gave myself back to God. I dropped all my pain. It helped me forgive myself. So that 31st of this December, I went back home that morning and I started feeling pain in my stomach and I was trying to understand why I was feeling pain. I said, okay, maybe because I've not been, involved in sexual activity for such a long time. Maybe that's why I was feeling that pain. But after a while, I just walked to the hospital. Like if it's one day, I just walked to the hospital behind my house. And by the time I got there, I told the doctor everything that happened. He ran some tests and said, well, it looks like you're pregnant. I thought the rape was bad. Now I was pregnant. What will I do? I started thinking, all my life, my parents, everybody used to look up to me. People that knew me back at home, they'll tell you. My parents, they used to use us be like so person's child. So now, it didn't happen when I was in primary school, in secondary school, in university. Now I'm working. That's when I'm now getting pregnant. I just didn't know what to do. I was going through a whole lot. At that particular time, I would even walk into the road, the car would almost knocked me off. The whole scenario was playing out. And then one of the days he called, he kept trying to apologize, but I couldn't pick his call because what was sorry really changed? It wouldn't change anything. And that day, we called the office line and they passed the call because it was an official line. I couldn't reject it. And they passed the call to me and I now told him that this was what had happened. So he said, okay, I should come to his office, that everything will be fine. Because there was nobody, I was not submitted to any authority. There was nobody that I could talk to. So when he told me to come around, I went to his office and I was crying. And I was saying, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me. They're going to, I could just imagine, what my parents, how the disappointment, the betrayal. As I was sighing in pain, he would now repeat and say, oh my God, your parents are really going to kill you. So when he got me to a point where I was almost running mad and I just needed a way out. And he now said, well, there's a way out. It's going to be our own little secret. Nobody's going to know. So I thought about it, really. He now told me that he had a friend that could help me take out the baby and nobody would know. And I looked at it, really. I could have my life back. Nobody would know. And he gave me the address. On my way to that hospital, I remember I was in the car. And I remember those words I used to utter those days. I used to tell myself, Iverian, the day you ever try having an abortion is the day you will die. I repeated that. I remembered it. I said, God, this is not my fault. I didn't plan this.
Everybody take note of that. Be careful about the things you say. Even in the name of vows or consecration. Just be careful. Yeah.
So I said, God, it's not my fault. I didn't plan this. I just said, God, please forgive me for what I'm about to do. But I just can't help it. I have to do this. And I got to the hospital. It was when the doctor started the procedure. In a few seconds that followed, I died. I saw myself lying down in the hospital bed. And I was looking at myself, standing, two of me. I tried to understand. At least I've been here on earth for a while. I've never seen, how can two of you identical be in the same place? While I was still trying to understand what's happening, I got caught up. I started rejoicing because I know that heaven is up, hell is down. As I was excited going up, seconds that followed, it started heading down. What I could see, the first thing I could see was a wall stretched out from the face of the deep. There was gross darkness, the kind of darkness, I cannot even explain it. The kind of darkness that you cannot imagine. What I could see was like cell-like unit, cubicles. You couldn't see the end of it up, you couldn't see the end of it down, a bottomless pit. And we're moving so fast. I was still trying to understand what's happening. And then it dawned on me. The first thing that happened was I found myself on the other side. And the first thing I saw was a lady. This lady had been burning for 100 years. She would melt like candle wax and she would form back. And she was shouting. She was screaming. I saw her, but in seconds that followed, it was not about what I was seeing anymore. It was about me. I started burning. The fire started burning me from my head down to the sole of my feet. I started screaming. I was shouting. I was gnashing my teeth. I was shouting. Now the fire that was burning me. Imagine if they won't put you inside a fuel tanker, and the tanker is burning. The pain is not going to reduce. As I was burning, the pain is increasing. The fire, as in the pain from the fire, the shout. And then the striking part of it is the fact that as I was shouting, my first shout would be loud. My next shout would be louder. Ever increasing shout, but your strength is not increasing. As I was shouting, there were a lot of things that became alive to me. So many scriptures, about 3 scriptures stood out for me when I saw myself burning there. One of the scriptures that stood out for me was the fact that the Bible says that a living dog is better than a dead lion. When I was begging God and asking God, I just said, God, just give me 1 second. I'm not asking for 1 million years. I'm not asking for 1 billion years. Just 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. And he asked me, he said, how many seconds are in a minute? He said, how many minutes are in an hour? How many hours are in a day? How many days are in a month? How many months are in a year? How many years have you spent on this earth? He said, do the maths. Calculate all those seconds and compare it to this 1 minute. 1 second you're asking me for. Why is this 1 second so important? I was desperate. I said, God, please, as I was begging, the things I experienced there, just imagine someone close your nose. You can't breathe. For 1 hour, you cannot breathe, but you can't die. Imagine the noise that was there. I don't know if you heard some of the people that are in war areas where you hear the bomb blast. Just the noise in your ears alone is enough. If there was no fire, if there was nothing, just that noise. There were shouts. The noise in that place. Then the smell was, I cannot even explain it. But among all the traumatic things I was going through, the worst of the things that was the worst experience was the feeling of knowing that you are doomed, you are dead, it was over. Because no matter whatever situation you are going through on earth, as long as you are alive, there's hope. If you have your body getting rotten, you're sick in the hospital, whatever that situation is, it can change. But the moment you close your eyes on planet Earth and you find yourself in heaven, it is. While I was still begging God, I asked God, I told him to please give me an opportunity to come back and share what I've experienced. While I was still begging God, he asked me a question. He said that Jesus, the Son of God, came back to earth. They did not listen to him. He said many have died. Many have come back with warnings. They did not listen to them. The apostles, he said the book of Revelation was given to people to read. He said they do not read it, let alone believe it. He said many have come back with warnings. They did not listen to them. He said, why will they listen to you? I said, God, just give me this chance. I will come back and I will tell everyone that has ears that it happened to me. Why I was still struggling, I was still saying this, I found myself heading back. We got very close to the hospital. And then I woke up in my body. For some days, I just thought the only thing I needed to do was just to be worshiping God. The fear. I couldn't understand how hell can be this real. And we'll be living like everything is normal. I was still trying to understand it. And, but some days, that particular period, I was going around like a mad person. From the bank, I'll just carry my public address system. I'll be standing on the road. If I meet you, I want to pull you by all means. Like you can't go to hell. I was traumatized by what I saw. But later on, he tried to start teaching me there is the love of God, not just the fear of hell. Understanding the magnitude of what Jesus did that would make me and help me make heaven. Part of the things that God saved me from was that feeling of total helplessness. When I was burning, and I was asking God to give me another chance, I knew that I was doomed. I knew it was over. I knew there was no way. I knew that there was just no way. It was over. That word doomed became real and alive to me. And I came back and God gave me an opportunity to share. For a while I was sharing it. But after a while, I felt, God, just give me a husband first. Like, if you only give me a husband, I will share it. And then one day he told me, he said, for the same reason you died in the first place, you will die again if you don't go and sound my warning. Said, I had mercy upon you. And I was asking God, one of the things I asked him when I came back, I said, God, why me? And he told me, he said, I have mercy upon whom I have mercy upon. Not because I shouted the most, not because I was louder, not because I was better.
Because, other people were also there shouting, asking for second chance. Hell did not start in the New Testament. Heaven did not start in the New Testament. They were there before Jesus came, and they are there after he died. It's this sin that sends people to hell. Then salvation, giving your life to Christ and receiving salvation, is what qualifies you for heaven. But that doesn't mean after receiving salvation, you go wild. I'm now saved. Nothing can happen. You start committing the same offenses. The Bible said, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God that is at work in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. At least for me, as committee is ending, I can have peace. We've completed the instruction the Lord gave us. And yes. And it was also reminding me here, he said, you do your part, then you are free from everybody's blood. Now, let me tell you, the responsibility to preach the truth is on the preachers and on God's people. But after they have preached it, the responsibility leaves from them. The responsibility now, what you do with it, is now in your hand.